Welcome to Matters Financial, Geopolitical from the Frontier. Thank you for stopping by. I'm always grateful. This was the photograph of the sunset just in front of my office, which sits on the highway. I tweeted Sunset Boulevard, Chiromo, Nairobi. Macro thoughts, chart of the year. This is from June 24th. This was Jonathan Ferro putting the move in sterling into context. Pretty extraordinary stuff, to be honest. Still can't get over this. Hi China, come to London, buy a Burberry coat and Liberty scarf. Sterling, Brexit. That's David Inglis, who also tweeted this image. This 18-year chart of BlackBerry is a brutal reminder of how quickly and irreversible times and fortunes change. He couldn't be more right. Home Thoughts, the Paris Review. The cat sat on the mat is not the beginning of a story, but the cat sat on the dog's mat is. Jorge Borges, who's one of the finest writers and whose books are wonderful, well worth reading. Let me read you one of his poems. Like the blind man whose hands are precursors that push aside walls and glimpse heavens, slowly flustered I feel in the crack of night the verses that are to come. I must burn the abominable darkness in their limpid bonfire, the purple of words on the flagellated shoulder of time. I must enclose the tears of evening in the hard diamond of the poem. No matter if the soul walks naked and lonely as the wind, if the universe of a glorious kiss still embraces my life, the night is good, fertile ground for a sower of verses. Beautiful, isn't it? Newsweek, our latest cover, regret at the European Union. My only advice to our British friends is don't delude yourself about the necessary decisions that need to be taken. That's Angela Merkel. There shouldn't be the slightest misunderstanding about the conditions laid out in the European treaties for a case like this, Merkel said in a speech to Germany's parliament in Berlin on Tuesday. My only advice to our British friends is don't delude yourself about the necessary decisions that need to be taken. Merkel won applause from the German lawmakers as she laid out her approach to the two-day summit of EU leaders in Brussels that will be dominated by Brexit and the political and economic fallout reverberating across Europe. This chart, however, shows why Merkel and co. may only talk tough. UK is the biggest EU export destination. Couldn't resist Farage's intervention, the European Parliament. He said, "You all laughed at me. You are not laughing now." He was jeered and booed as he tells MEPs they are in denial over Brexit. He said he wanted a grown-up and sensible attitude to negotiating the exit. Isn't it funny, when I came here 17 years ago, and I said that I wanted to lead a campaign to get Britain out of the European Union, you all laughed at me. Well, I have to say, you're not laughing now, are you? And the reason you're so upset, the reason you're so angry, has been perfectly clear from all the angry exchanges this morning. You, as a political project, are in denial. You are in denial that the currency is failing. Just look at the Mediterranean as a policy to impose poverty. And the rest of the Mediterranean, you've done very well. And you are in denial over Mrs. Merkel's call last year for as many people as possible to cross the Mediterranean into the European Union. The biggest problem you've got, and the main reason the United Kingdom voted the way it did, is that you have, by stealth, by deception, and without ever telling the truth to the British or the rest of the peoples of Europe, you have imposed upon them a political union. And when the people in 2005 in the Netherlands and France voted against the political union, when they rejected the constitution, you simply ignored them and brought the Lisbon Treaty in through the back door. What happened last Thursday was a remarkable result. It was a seismic result, not just for British politics, but for European politics, but perhaps even for global politics too. Because what the little people did, what the ordinary people did, what the people who've been oppressed over the last few years and have seen their living standards go down, they rejected the multinationals, they rejected the merchant banks, they rejected big politics. And they said, actually, we want our country back, we want our fishing waters back, we want our borders back, and we want to be independent, self-governing, normal nation. And that is what we have done, and that is what must happen. It's a pretty powerful intervention. James Bartholomew, who writes for The Telegraph, and whom I met not too long ago, says these EU wallers don't like it up. Jamie McGeever tweets this image of Juncker and of Farage. It says, caption competition. Turkey's airport bombing is the latest in a string of attacks. It's the fourth terror attack in Istanbul this year. I saw that Erdogan used the opportunity to launch airstrikes within Syria. So he's never slow to turn disaster into an opportunity. IS blamed for Turkey airport attacks that killed 36. Tourist numbers have already plunged, and that probably informs us of why he's had this recent rapprochement with Putin and with Netanyahu. Japan has got elections next month. Let's see how that pans out. Rwanda has congratulated Ethiopia, elected as UN Security Council non-permanent member representing Africa with 185 votes. Vladimir Putin held a reception in honor of graduates of military academies. And I must say, Brexit's helped him a lot and he's rebounded a great deal. Currency markets, let's go there. 110.74 euro dollar, dollar index 95.91, Japanese yen 102.40, Swissy 0.9794, the pound all over the place. Topped out at 134.20 yesterday. We're at 133.90, having gone below 133 overnight. The Aussie, let me get hold of that, 74.17, Indian rupee 67.705, South Korean won 11.56.55, the Rial 330.36, Egyptian pound 887.69, and the Rand is around 15 the figure. Sterling is about to complete its worst quarter in 7.5 years, driven by the UK's vote to leave the European Union. I still am of the view sterling's going to go a lot lower, because I think we're in a vacuum now whilst we wait for a new Prime Minister, wait for the UK to pull the trigger. I'm surprised Carney has not cut rates already, because the pound could be a lot lower, and then cutting rates into that sort of environment will prove much more difficult. Euro dollar, let me put up a 3-month chart. I can't get bullish about the euro. In fact, I think what this Brexit has done is put the euro, the parity call, back on the table. Commodity markets, gold 13.21.15, very well supported around the 13.10 level. Expecting it to move higher geopolitically, it is a mess. Crude oil getting a bit of a fillip as it normally does on a Wednesday morning, $48.61 in New York. I think we've topped out. We might print a fresh new high for 2016, but ultimately I think we're going back to 45 and then 40. Sub-Saharan Africa, South Sudan has cancelled its independence celebrations. They haven't got any money. Economist, rumble in the jungle. Congo's president jails his rival, President Kabila. Congo's president jails his rival. President Joseph Kabila is playing it nasty. Written about this, and I'll come back to those comments, saying that the outward appearance of a system of law masks the reality. In Congo, naked power is all that matters, and the law is subservient to it. That's clear from the treatment of Moishi Katumbi. Mr. Kabila, it seems, increasingly clear, intends to hold on to the presidency, defying a constitution that says fairly clearly that he should step down and to crush any opposition that gets in the way. Mr. Katumbi is looking less like a threat when he spoke recently to The Economist in Lumumbashi, at which point the accusation was that he had hired mercenaries. He said he would be martyred if necessary to push out Mr. Kabila. But shortly afterwards he left the country for South Africa, claiming to need treatment for injuries sustained when the police broke up demonstrations in his support. The former governor is now in Europe, presumably drumming up support among the sizable Congolese diaspora. If Mr. Katumbi does return, he could provide a powerful counterweight, but if he does not, Congo's opposition is unlikely to find somebody else influential enough to have a serious chance of forcing Mr. Kabila out. And it is hardly clear that Mr. Katumbi really is brave enough to risk being imprisoned the moment he lands. All this sets up a dangerous end to this year. Mr. Kabila has control of the state apparatus, but it is difficult to find many people who actually support him. In 2006, he was elected by piling up votes in Katanga, Mr. Katumbi's power base. The east of the country is still divided between around 70 armed groups. The capital, Kinshasa, is a city of 12 million angry slum dwellers, many of whom will see little to lose in looting and rioting if he stays on. The economy is slowing, prices are climbing, and the franc is weakening against the dollar. If the security forces cannot be paid, then all bets are off. On the 6th of June, I spoke about how it was his birthday, then birthday boy President Joseph Kabila is constitutionally barred from running for the third term, and that Katumbi had set out his stall and was proving a formidable adversary. I said on the 6th of June, in fact the numbers were building and Katumbi must have been thinking this might just turn into a tsunami. President Kabila concluded by saying, however, outwitted Katumbi by removing him from the street of the Congo entirely. It might well prove a cleverly administered technical knockout, I said. I like this photograph of the cinema Impero, an Art Deco style cinema in Asmara in Eritrea. There's spaghetti and pizza, cappuccinos and cafe lattes. The local cinema shows La Dolce Vita, and most people will answer you in Italian, but this isn't Italy. It's Asmara, Eritrea's capital on the edge of the Horn of Africa. South African all-share had a sharp rally yesterday, up 2.11%. It's up 0.88% this year. Dollar rand, let me put up a 6-month chart. Caught in two minds. I think it's in this 14, what would we call it? 1440. It's in this range. 1440 to about 1560 is the trading range, in my opinion, and we're sort of in the middle of it. Egypt's EGX 30 down 1.06% this year. Nigeria's Buhari questions benefit of currency float amid weakened Naira. Nigeria's central bank abandoned the Naira's 16-month-old exchange rate peg of 197 Naira to a dollar a week ago. The Naira ended at 282 to the dollar on Monday, but was trading at around 350 on the black market. President Buhari says, I don't like the returns I get from the central bank of Nigeria. He also said the devaluation of the Naira in 1985 saw the Naira trading at 1.3 to the dollar, whereas now you need 300 or 350 Naira to the dollar. How much benefit can derive from this ruthless devaluation of the Naira? I'm not an economist, neither a businessman. I fail to appreciate what is the economic explanation, he said. What has happened to us now is that we have maneuvered ourselves into a mono economy which led to the collapse we are seeing now. Devalued Naira, too hot for traders, seeing further currency slide. Traders expecting Nigeria's currency devaluation to trigger a rush of cash into Africa's largest economy are rapidly concluding that the Naira's 30% drop wasn't enough. That the currency has been so stable since the devaluation tells me that the central bank is still heavily managing it. If we saw gradual depreciation to 300 or above, investors might feel more comfortable coming in. Nigeria all share up 3.26% this year. Ghana Stock Exchange Composite Index down 10.39% this year. Tanzania's new president shakes up East Africa's sleeping giants, an article in the FT, and carried on rich wrap-ups. Magufuli is embarking on his first 5-year term, creating a buzz of expectation that at last Tanzania has found a leader capable of awakening the sleeping giant of East Africa, one with huge, largely unexploited gas and mineral resources. He walks the talk. When he says something, he follows through. He's not a liar. All over the world, people speak about Magufuli, Othman Gendeki, lowering himself stiffly on a stone step by the side of an open sewer in Dar es Salaam to break the chains of poverty. That's what he's trying to do. Naturally, Mr. Magufuli has made enemies. In the State House, as a precaution, he is said to eat only food prepared by his wife. People believe sincerely there's a new sheriff in town. I think at some point President Magufuli will have to review his methods. He cannot be a one-man show. Brexit torpedoed every nation's stock market except one, and it turns out to be Zambia's. Kenya, if we are beaten fairly, we are ready to come out and accept defeat, said Raila Odinga, 71-year-old former Prime Minister and 3-time presidential candidate. If it is manipulated, then we will not accept it. The outcome is not in our hands. The ball is squarely in the court of government. My only point with regard to that point is that the strategy, asymmetric strategy that the opposition is employing is about degrading institutions, so that in the event you lose the election, you can go and say, look, I told you about this already. I wrote about this on the 6th of June. Street protests will hurt 6% growth forecast. I spoke about I re-quoted Paul Virilio, the revolutionary contingent attains its ideal form not in the place of production, but in the street, where for a moment it stops being a cog in the technical machine and itself becomes a motor, machine of attack, in other words, a producer of speed. I said the street is a tinderbox and it has become a major area of political contestation across the continent. I did some interesting comparisons, and Sammy helped me out, of parent companies, the companies that they have here in Kenya. Look at this comparison between Vodafone and Safaricom. In 2016, Safaricom is up 5.214% so far this year. Have a look at the interview I did with Bob. That link is also on the website after his full year results. Then look at this EABL outperforming Diageo as well in 2016. I attended a fabulous party with Charles, who's leaving now to go back to the United Kingdom, and I'll put up a photograph of Charles at that party. EABL is up 5.49% this year. Look at this comparison. Barclays share price, that's down 29.77%. But as you can see from this comparison, it's outperforming Barclays PLC in the UK, BAT underperforming its parent BAT in the UK by quite a margin, and I think what that tells me is that BAT is being seen as a safe haven in these turbulent times. Have a look at this comparison between Standard Chartered Kenya and Standard Chartered in the UK. And the thing to note is Standard Chartered Kenya has done better than it's showing because they had a bonus share issue, so you've had an extra share. Kenya shilling, probably one of the most stable currencies in the world, 101.25. Nairobi NSE 20 down 10% this year, closed at a 49-month low yesterday and has dropped 107.94 points since Brexit. Olympia Capital reported its full year earnings, did much better than previously. Revenue pretty in line, but earnings per share was a profit of 26 cents versus a loss of $1.04 last time round. Once again, thank you for stopping by. I'm grateful.